Oh yeah, it's Stranger. The God particle? Jeez. Almost as if she's given birth. Gee. Whoa. The yellow raincoat.
Zieh dich an.
Get dressed, he said, eh? Yeah. Again, it's a really specific outfit. Wow. 2 days. Wow, the score, man. Shh. Okay.
Das erste endet mit dem Verlust der Naivität,
Mhm.
das zweite mit dem Verlust der Unschuld und das dritte mit dem Verlust
Wow,
des
you can attach so many
Lebens.
meanings to that, right? 3 stages of Jonas's life.
Unausweichlich, dass wir alle 3 Stufen
Yeah,
durchschreiten.
that.
Ich möchte, dass du zu uns ziehst.
Hmm.
Du wärst nicht so alleine. Und Regina würde sich auch freuen, wenn sie mehr von dir hätte. Am besten morgen schon.
Yeah, there's.
Morgen? Du tust ja so, als wäre ich schon fast tot.
Wow. Unfortunately, she's trying. Claudia's trying.
Ist er hier? Jonas.
Jonas.
Er ist verschwunden. Ich habe keine Ahnung, wo er ist.
Hmm. Interesting timing,
Du hast
though,
gesagt,
right?
du hast Mikkel gesehen.
Oh. Yeah.
Er war immer da.
Yeah.
Direkt vor mir. Ich kann einfach nicht fassen, dass du mit meinem Mann und mit meinem Sohn geschlafen hast.
Oh, look at that.
Du
Defiant.
willst ja schon immer alles haben, was mir gehört.
She likes to take things from
Du
others.
bist ein Parasit. Hat dir Ulrich eigentlich jemals gesagt, dass er dich liebt?
Hmm. Episode 1 of the
Er
series.
sich immer für uns entscheiden.
Remember, I said he didn't say it back.
Man sollte meinen, dass man so etwas nicht vergisst, wenn das eigene Kind.
Ah. Stranger knew. Stranger knew. That's why he's not in the house. Well, he had an interesting dream, all right. Yeah, that was certainly her room in the dream. Yeah, there's that photo, and then, of course, the poster. Yeah, that's right. He recognizes the posters. But... Oh, whoa. The necklace, okay. Go on, Hannah, let's see. How do you spin this? I think she'll handle it.
Was sie nicht verstehen, ist, dass wir hier zusammenhalten. Wir unterstützen uns.
She's good. Ooh, Ellie's senses, right? Okay, who's behind that tree? Jeez, that's not creepy at all. Okay, Noah.
Du weißt, was passieren wird. In der Zukunft.
Ja.
The thing is, Noah is here right now. He was just peeping from behind the tree. So could Noah and the stranger kind of meet up here too, right?
Das ist eine Zeitmaschine.
Now the thing is, Noah, even if he told him not to say it, I'm sure he's expecting him to say it, right? That's all. I mean, you've got the contraption, show them.
Nein, warte. Dann zeig uns, wie es funktioniert.
Okay, the travelers, the next generation, here it comes. Ariadne. Wow. Oh. Oh my. Oh.
Geht's Ihnen nicht gut?
Wow. Ines, being sneaky. Even if he tries, the passage is closed though, right?
Sie kommen mir irgendwie bekannt vor.
Wow.
Ich habe über 33 Jahre auf diesen Moment gewartet. Die Frage ist nicht wie, sondern im Wein. Erinnerst du dich?
Wow. Ah.
Wir haben der Zeit den Krieg erklärt. Gott den Krieg erklärt.
Time is God.
Den Gott, der alles zusammenhält. Dass dieser Gott nichts anderes ist.
Time.
als die Zeit selbst.
Time never
Kein
yields.
denkendes, handelndes Geschöpf. Eine physikalische Gesetzmäßigkeit.
Time is
die sich
undefeated.
ebenso wenig verhandeln lässt, wie mit dem eigenen Schicksal.
Oh! Whoa! Wow. Don't be scared, Charlotte. It's understandable, but he's not gonna hurt you.
Charlotte,
Charlotte.
vielleicht wirst du eines Tages verstehen, dass ich das alles nur getan habe, damit es irgendwann nicht mehr geschieht, damit du mir nicht wiedergenommen wirst.
Oh, there it is.
Genauso wenig wie deine Mutter.
There it is. Oh,
Wenn du
baby.
bist, haben sie dir keine großen
Baby
Chancen
Charlotte.
gegeben. Du bist zu früh gekommen. Warst winzig, dich alle Jahre gesucht. Warst du die ganze Zeit da?
Okay, I'll save it for later,
Ich wusste,
but
dass du es bist. Aber ich weiß jetzt, was ich tun muss.
he's gonna try to stop it.
Ich muss Adam vernichten.
Ooh,
Damit alle
wow.
leben. Nicht nur die im Bunker.
Ooh. Noah's Ark, right? Picking and choosing. Perhaps?
Wer ist meine Mutter?
That's the question, though. Go on then, Noah. Give us a little something. Don't blue ball me. Give me a little something. Wow.
Sie hat dich sehr geliebt. Wow. Das tut sie noch immer.
Oh, that's something. That's something. So it's someone I know, and someone who's alive, clearly, in one of the time periods, at least.
Du und Jonas euch geküsst habt, das hat er mir erzählt, bevor ihr es getan habt. Dass man
Magnus.
bekommt.
Oh.
Michael!
Michael. He's seen a younger Ulrich in the 50s run towards the cave, right? Wow. Wow. But you would think they have quite a head start, no? But regardless, it's a dead end.
Nein! Und auf den Boden! Ich durfte mir nicht wegnehmen! Auf den Boden! Das ist mein Sohn!
And Mikkel's probably just so rattled and just so confused right now, man.
Ich könnte nie die Worte sprechen, die mein älteres Ich damals zu mir gesagt hat.
Right. But then time changes things, right?
Weil ich nicht verstehen konnte, wie ich das, was er wollte, jemals wollen könnte. 66 Jahre später verstehe ich es.
It's a long time. A lot of experiences.
Es gibt Momente, die verändern uns für immer. Manchen Schmerz vergisst man nicht.
Aber wenn das stimmt, wenn es einen Weg gibt, warum passiert dann alles so, wie es immer passiert ist? Warum hat ihr nichts verändert?
Oh my god, no. No, that's not fair, man.
Halt! Halt, stopp, anhalten! Das sind meine Kinder! Magnus! Martha!
Oh wow, to them he's just a crazy person just saying everyone's my child. Fucking hell, man, that's tough. That's rough.
Du bist zurück? Wo warst du denn?
Who? She was legitimately happy to see him. But something's off.
Hat dir das hier jemals was bedeutet?
He's come back.
Hast du
Bit of a different attitude right now.
Du brauchst niemanden. Du brauchst nur dich selbst.
Yeah, she's afraid she almost lost Mikkel, right? Wow. He just saw his dad that he... Oh, man. Oh, my God. Ines. See, this is clearly beyond trying to help him sleep. Right, the necklace. Wow. Okay. That reaction though in her face. I think she realizes Jonas is around. Yeah.
Das hier haben wir selbst hergestellt.
Whoa.
Das hier schickt dich genau zu dem Tag,
Oh.
zu dem du reisen möchtest.
Whoa.
Es durchbricht den 33 Jahre Zyklus.
They have control over the input.
Die Frage ist nur, wann ist der Anfang? Und welches Opfer müssen wir bringen?
Der 20. Juni 2019.
Wow.
Der Tag, bevor alles passiert ist.
Notice how Adam makes, you know...
Bevor Papa sich das Leben genommen hat.
Wenn du ihn davon abhalten kannst, sich das Leben zu nehmen, dann wird alles, was folgt, nicht passieren. Mikkel wird nicht zurückreisen.
Oh, he's buying it. He's buying it.
Du.
You're not gonna exist. But...
Wir werden nicht geboren.
He can't change anything, man. Oh my god.
Martha wird leben.
Yeah, throw that in for good measure, right? Really entice him. Wow, but how cool is this? They actually managed to kind of pinpoint the exact time. I mean, he had his outfit ready for him already. He knew. But he let Jonas kind of, you know, do the talking. Wow.
Du das schaffst, sortieren wir die Welt neu.
He's not going to succeed. Hell, he might be the reason some of these things happen in the first place, right? God damn it. Predestination paradox, man. It's a hell of a thing. Oh. See, I couldn't tell if those are teary eyes or if that's just, you know, the shiny look under his eyes. I think those are teary eyes. You know, it kind of lingers on his face there, but that's a bummer of an ending, man, because given everything I know, he's not going to be able to change anything. He thinks, right? He thinks he might be able to change it, but Adam knows. In fact, you know, it's clear that Adam needs him to go and try and do these things because it might be one of the reasons a lot of these things happen in the first place, right? Wow. I mean, that's quite the setup for the next episode. The day before Mikkel hangs himself. Wow. I have this really empty feeling right now. You know, part of me thinks that maybe even Jonas himself, or Jonas deep inside, he knows because of, you know, some of these experiences he's had, but like he hasn't completely accepted it just yet. Again, kind of goes back to that whole notion of 3 lives, right? But, you know, the idea and the notion of potentially stopping his father, stopping Mikkel from hanging himself and, you know, changing the course of time, you can't do it. You just can't do it. But it's so enticing, right, to hear that. And Marta's gonna live, you know? Adam leans in, tells him that for good measure as well. Yeah, you know, as expected, Adam really manipulated him there, right? His younger self, because he needs him to do the things that leads him to the path of becoming Adam. Right, so, Jonas stepped in to the twin of the God particle, the one I initially see in the season 1 opener, this season's opener, in the 2053 time period. This one, the one in the 1921 time period, they produced themselves, Sigmundus, that is, Adam and Sigmundus. Throughout the span of the episode, you see that all of it was so he could get Jonas to step into that and go back to that point. And, you know, like I mentioned during the episode, notice how Adam kind of hangs back at one point and kind of makes it seem like Jonas is the one who comes up with the idea of, you know, the beginning of the cycle, the beginning of all of this, the origin of all of this. And he comes to the conclusion that it is June 19th, 2019, the day before Mikkel, his father, hangs himself, right? So, yeah, he certainly, yeah, like I mentioned, you know, he's certainly a bit of a master, isn't he? Adam, that is. Master manipulator as well, and a master at many other things from the looks of it. Yeah, so Jonas is going in there. But as you saw, I don't believe for a second that he's going to be able to do anything. You know, Adam knows this, and like I mentioned, maybe even our Jonas knows this deep inside, right? But, you know, the idea and that slim slim, chance of hope that's kind of being presented on a silver platter by his older self, by Adam, it's a bit too enticing to not kind of, take a shot at. I feel like our Jonas has been through this enough that maybe, a part of him, maybe a tiny part, but a part of him might realize that all of these attempts might be futile. I'm sure there is a bit of lingering concern and unease in our own Jonas. I mean, but as expected, Adam kind of sold a lot of promises, or sold quite a narrative to his younger self, to our Jonas. Again, offered a bit of hope. And yeah, by the end of it, our Jonas stepped into the God particle. And again, according to Adam, this is going to break the 33-year cycle. Yeah, so that's exciting. So, as of this point, it's pretty clear, right? The contraption, the time-traveling contraption, that's being utilized once again in this episode by our younger squad, essentially the younger travelers. They've taken their first steps, though, of course, Bartosz has done it a few times now. But the others are in on it now. Marta, Magnus, Franziska, Elizabeth, Ellie Doppler, who was kind of sensing something was a bit off, and she was spot on as Noah, in quite a creepy manner, is kind of, watching all of this and kind of, watching them as they go in and out. Though, of course, I need to speak of Noah, Charlotte's mother, and Noah's reaction to Charlotte. In particular, you must have noticed my confused reaction during that scene, But let's put a pin in that. I don't want to deviate too far from my initial point right now, but I'll come back to that for sure. But this idea that, if you go back and you stop our father from hanging himself, from killing himself, you can kind of change everything, right? You could stop all of this. But us, the audience, knows at this point it's just not possible. Right, it's just not possible. And the fact that so many things are still around means that nothing is going to change. In fact, the heartbreaking thing here is our Jonas going back to that point in time, June 19th, and trying to stop Mikkel from hanging himself, or Michael, or Michael. That might be the reason he ends up hanging himself in the first place, right? It's just a heartbreaking thought, because again, that whole notion of predestination paradox, it's all over this story. It has to be, right? Given the nature of this story. You see in season 1, Ulrich tries to go back, ends up in the wrong time period, essentially. Though he had no idea, right, that he's going to end up in the 50s or 86. But he ends up in the 50s. He thinks by killing Helge, he's going to stop it all, stop everything from happening, stop Helge from killing and kidnapping. But no, despite his attempts, and he certainly tried his best to kill Helge, young Helge, Helge somehow survives, right? Almost as if the universe is not going to let him die. And instead of killing Helge, he ends up playing a major part in kind of shaping his path, his trajectory towards, meeting Noah, and kind of assisting Noah, and again, assisting Noah in taking these children. And, speaking of the children, Yasin and Mads and Eric, I'm going to get into the connotations of them going missing in a bit. I'll come back to that. But yeah, predestination paradox, I think. And, to me, I was trying to kind of get a good look at his eyes. To me, it kind of looked like he was a little bit misty-eyed, right? A little bit teary-eyed, Adam, that is, as he watched his younger self go into the God particle, right? The dark matter, or a bunch of other names that he kind of used to describe it. He knows, right? He knows he's done this. He's done this before, right? He stepped into that, and he knows how things are about to play out. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe that isn't teary eyes. Maybe that is just him and the way he looks now because of, the constant decades of time traveling, essentially. And, that kind of has me thinking as well, am I going to get to see the stranger kind of turn into Adam in terms of his physical look, right? Because Adam is covered head to toe, right? Yes, stranger is... Yeah, he's got those marks on his body. He's got the lacerations. I kind of saw a new one on his shoulder that I didn't notice before. And this is in the opening scene, the sex scene. And this time it was older Jonas, the stranger, dreaming of Marta. Interesting that I've seen that scene a few times now. But this time it was really unique, right? This is the most different, or this deviates the most from the ones I've seen so far of Jonas and Marta, the sex scene. And of course, quite interesting that, the God particle kind of emerges and shoots out from her belly, right? Almost as if she's about to give birth. And almost as if, Jonas or Stranger has kind of corrupted her. I don't know, given her his seed. I mean, there's a lot you can kind of, read into. And that question I've been asking a few times now that they still haven't really explained the exact reasoning behind Mikkel, writing that note and hanging himself. Yeah, I might finally get an answer to that, right? I mean, the setup is there. I mean, first of all, are Jonas going back to that time period before his father died? Yeah. That is just, it's an exciting thought, of course. But, like I mentioned, I had this empty feeling, a feeling of unease, him going back there thinking maybe he could do something to stop it. But all of us know, man, the audience knows at this point, it's pretty airtight, the structure of this, of this narrative, right? The time traveling aspect of this. He's not going to change anything, right? The only thing he is going to do here is potentially play a part in making those things happen in the first place. So yeah, that has me really on edge at this point in time. Potentially getting to see him meet his father again. I mean, that in itself, how is he supposed to hold it together, right? Is he going to straight up tell him that he comes from the future? Surely he's going to have to, explain that he comes from the future, that he's a future Jonas, and, these are the things that are going to happen. This is how things play out. And, he's going to have to bring up that idea that, oh, you're going to hang yourself, right? Don't do it. Don't do it. But the thing that has me really on edge, again, is predestination paradox. Him going back there could be the reason for many of these things happening in the first place, including his own father writing that note and hanging himself. So that has me kind of scared. It's almost as if, deep inside, I know that might be the reason, but, I'm not accepting it. I'm trying to kind of not think about that. But unfortunately, how things have played out over the span of this, show so far, and I'm, past the midpoint, I know enough to know that, no one's changing anything. Our Jonas is not going to change anything here. Adam knows this. I mean, Stranger is out there, right? They all exist. Stranger already tried that. Adam already tried that, right? As that Jonas. They both exist. They are still here. They did not cease to exist. Say, as a hypothetical, he stops Michael from hanging himself. How does that play out? Adam's logic doesn't even add up, right? But the problem is Jonas was kind of buying it by the end of it, that he didn't even have time to really digest it and think about it. But, if Jonas was to kind of step back and really think about it, I think he would realize, okay, no, but this didn't happen, or, that's still around, or this person is still here. I mean, all I know is that I need to have a tissue box ready, man. Because that setup, wow. I mean, I'm going to get to see Michael and Jonas together, most likely, right? That's the setup here. Wow, that is just, I know it's just going to absolutely crush me. Seeing Jonas's reaction, seeing Michael's reaction to Jonas. But he'll be so confused, right? He'll be so confused. But yeah, I saw one father and son reunion in this one, and of course that broke me. Ulrich and Mikkel. Now I'm gonna get to see, most likely, Mikkel and his own son in a bit of a reunion, even though, for Michael, it's going to be a bit strange, right? Because, surely Jonas is not going to be able to, keep it together at all times, right? I mean, imagine having the chance to see a parent that died. Imagine a second chance to see them, right? Much like how Claudia, remember, goes to Egon in 1921, sorry, not 21, 53, right? It's going to be something similar, right? Jonas is also going to get emotional if and once he does come across his father. I mean, Claudia, who's so experienced, couldn't keep it together either, right? So yeah, but it's realistic. Imagine getting to see a parent that died. Wow. Now I kind of want to, you know, switch to Noah, as it's been just running through my mind this whole time. Noah and Charlotte. So yes, confirmation that indeed Noah is Charlotte's father. I mean, it was actually a beautiful moment, you know, him pulling out the Polaroid and explaining the situation. You know, you were kind of born premature, but you're a fighter, right? You hung in there, but then she was taken. She was taken from him. Again, you know, I kind of go into the possibility that it was Claudia who kind of snatched Charlotte from Noah and gave Charlotte to Tannhaus at some point. Again, kind of goes back to that, you know, confrontation, right? You took everything from me before he shoots Claudia at point blank. Though he did pause for a moment as Claudia kind of poses the question, do you really have a choice, right? But yeah, you know, now I have official confirmation. Yeah, that's the father. But the big mystery now is who's the mother. But the thing that has me thinking here, you know, something's a bit off here. It's not adding up. You know, Noah, it appears that he just realized that, you know, his Charlotte was here all along. He did not know that this is his daughter, that this Charlotte is his daughter up until recently. And recently being him coming across the pages on Claudia. And of course, you know, that reaction to reading something about Charlotte and then subsequently not sharing that information from the pages or the existence of those pages with Adam, right? So it feels like he found out there that the Charlotte in the 2021 or 2019 and 2020 timelines or time periods was his Charlotte. His daughter Charlotte. But then there's that whole thing in season 1, him coming across Elizabeth Doppler, right? And him being able to communicate with Ellie Doppler. So he just happened to know sign language, right? Just by chance. It's just something he knows, right? You know, given that this is quite an intricate show and the relationships and all of that, I don't think he just happened to know sign language. But if he just now realized recently that this Charlotte is actually his Charlotte, that scene in that whole thing in season 1 is just really a major head scratcher at this point then. Gives her a pocket watch that has Charlotte engraved in it that Tannhaus did or made for her. And in fact, I get to see Tannhaus actually, you know, engraving it in season 1 as well. It's him and the stranger having a conversation. But, you know, I digress. That scene had nothing to do with Charlotte. That was all about Ellie Doppler, Elizabeth Doppler. You know, the whole point of that scene was something else entirely then. If he didn't even know that this Charlotte is his Charlotte, his long-lost daughter, baby daughter, right? So he didn't know back in season 1. He didn't know around the time he comes across Ellie and Elizabeth Doppler. Yet he gives Ellie the pocket watch that has Charlotte in it, engraved in it. Because my thought process on that was, of course, okay, so through Ellie Doppler, he's kind of trying to communicate or, you know, kind of keep a connection with Charlotte, right? And, you know, kind of giving her this pocket watch. But no, that doesn't seem to be the case. If, you know, if I'm not kind of overlooking something here. I mean, I felt like it was pretty clear that, yeah, he just recently found out that she was here the whole time. I mean, that's the actual dialogue. You know, I've been looking you for this whole time, but you ended up being here the whole time. Huh? This might be the most puzzling situation I've kind of come across so far, or one of the most puzzling scenarios I've come across so far. He was actually just meeting Ellie in season 1. That wasn't about Charlotte, that was about Ellie, Elizabeth Doppler. And of course that means the pocket watch was for her, for Ellie. But didn't Noah know this whole time that Helge is a Doppler and Helge has a son? Though of course it's pretty clear that, you know, Peter Doppler is not Helge's actual biological son. But still, you know, given the whole time traveling nature of it all, you know, surely he might have heard of Charlotte Doppler, right? At some point. I mean, he gives her the watch, so he knows Charlotte means something to Ellie, right? Clearly means something to Ellie. So I mean, again, I assume it's because, you know, he knows that Ellie is Charlotte's daughter. So he gives Ellie the pocket watch so she can go give it back to Charlotte. But that's not the case. That's certainly not the case now. I hope I'm making sense here. You know, this is one of those things that really has me kind of quite excited. I'm certainly going down the rabbit hole for this one, that's for sure. I mean, I certainly hope this last bit of discussion doesn't go down the drain because I misunderstood this scene that just happened now, Noah and Charlotte. But I think it was pretty clear cut that he just now realized this is his Charlotte. He didn't know before this. And to, kind of double down, he goes into the notion of Adam already knowing this, but keeping that from him, right? And now, of course, you see that Noah is kind of dead set on making it all stop, right? He wants to stop Adam, essentially kill Adam, I guess, so no one else has to die. I mean, back in season 1, it was clear that he is kind of being painted, or he is being kind of, depicted as someone who could have evil intentions, right? But even then, if you'll remember, I didn't quite take that angle. I didn't take that angle with any of the characters in the show because I've maintained since episode 1 that, it appears that everyone has their own struggle, everyone has their own secrets, their own skeletons, as Clausen put it. It's not as simple as just good and evil. I mean, these are not just surface level characters. There's a lot to them. There's a lot of nuance to these characters, and I'm getting to see that play out through many of the characters at this point. It's a phenomenal cast of characters. So yeah, Noah's motivations are certainly upfront, presented upfront at this point. It's all about Charlotte, his daughter, and his wife, Charlotte's mother. Charlotte kind of brings up the children and that she knows that he killed them. You see the painful look on his face, hearing his daughter kind of say this and not knowing the reasoning behind it. I mean, yes, it's of a dark nature, right? The things he had to do are of a really dark nature, killing these children. But, he maintains that, I hope you can understand one day that, I did these things so it doesn't happen like this, right? That it doesn't go down like this, that you're not taken from me and neither is your mother, right? So I guess Noah's version of, or Noah's counterpart of Charlotte's mother has died or has been taken away from him. But I did get a bit of something at the end there as Charlotte kind of through the tears asked about her mother. Who is my mother? He said she always loved you and she still loves you. Meaning, of course, given the nature of the show and the story, she exists at some point in time. But yeah, that's certainly all of a sudden one of the most intriguing mysteries of this show at this point of the story. Charlotte's mother. The whole notion of Charlotte being born premature. And my running theory at this point, that I think it was Claudia who snatched baby Charlotte. And that's the reason, Noah seems to hate her. He tells her, you took everything from me. And of course, as a parent, everything, you have to assume he means his child, right? Though, of course, maybe the mother, maybe there is a part to play there as well. I don't know. I don't feel like Claudia, even though, now there is set up here that, a stranger believes that, yeah, she turned into something she was trying to fight. And of course, the stranger and Claudia don't end up seeing eye to eye at some point. Though, of course, there is that exciting prospect of young Jonas and Claudia at some point for sure, right? They are going to spend a bit of time together at least. As Noah told Bartosz, right? He trusted her before and he'll trust her again. But say if I am on the right track and it was Claudia who took baby Charlotte, is it even possible that she took her to get her help, right? Maybe she tried to take her to a different time period that was a bit more suited to help her survive, perhaps. I don't know. I just don't see how Claudia could do something like that and not have a reason for it. Listen, do I think Claudia did things that are of a dark nature, much like how Noah did things of a dark nature? Yes, of course. She essentially said as much to her own younger counterpart, right? To 87 Claudia Tiedemann, that some things have to remain the same, as cruel as they might seem. I believe it was something along those lines. But, speaking of Ellie Doppler, there is another scene that's quite interesting in this episode. Ellie Doppler kind of sensing a presence, something is off. She was spot on because indeed Noah was there. There was someone there watching them or watching her specifically, right? Now I'm starting to think he wasn't there watching, Franziska or Marta or Magnus. He was there watching Ellie Doppler, given again, the scene or the moment from season 1. and all of this stuff that's going on. So there's a connection there. I think it's pretty clear at this point. There is some kind of connection to Ellie Doppler. Listen, you know that whole idea I've been talking about, you know, unallocated parentage and those moments actually being these shock moments at some point. I have an idea here. I do. But I feel like it's a bit too early to try to justify or, you know, kind of sell that idea right now. In my mind, I don't think it's that far-fetched given the information I've been given here and the nature of the show in general. But I'm going to keep that to myself for now. I think I need a bit more information to kind of build on that. I need a bit more information to build on this. It's crazy. It really is kind of crazy. But I've seen a lot of crazy things on this show already. So it's actually not that far-fetched, even though if it is a little bit crazy. Yeah. So listen, I'm sure many of you know the exact idea I might have in my mind right now, but not yet. Not yet. Let me have a few more episodes, perhaps. Maybe if I get something else that really, really builds on this possibility, then I'll immediately put it out there, even during the episode, perhaps, if I get something during the next few episodes. But yeah, I have something on that front. It's crazy. It's certainly crazy, but yeah, I think there's certainly enough there to kind of, you know, hint towards that possibility. But, you know, as I'm on the topic of unallocated parentage or relationships and blood relatives and all that, you know, confirms that Charlotte, since she is Noah's daughter and Noah is a Nielsen, right? And I brought this up in the last episode, right? But now I know for sure. You know, last episode, it was all about, okay, if indeed Charlotte is Noah's daughter, then that makes her a Nielsen. Now I know for a fact she is a Nielsen. If, again, I accept that Agnes is actually a Nielsen because she herself presented herself as a Nielsen, right? You know, if the show's telling me she's a Nielsen, as of this point, I have to assume she is a Nielsen, right? Agnes Nielsen, that makes Noah a Nielsen. Since they are siblings, that makes Charlotte a Nielsen. And then, of course, a Doppler, because she married Peter Doppler, who I think I kind of clocked on that, on the wall of the four families, right? And I noticed that at the bottom, they had future brunette, right? And they had young Noah, and they had Agnes, I believe, right at the bottom of the board, right? Unallocated parentage. And then on the right, I think I noticed a young Peter Doppler on the top left, right? Yeah. But yeah, that means that there's a bunch of new relationships that are kind of coming to the forefront now. I mean, they've existed, but now the audience knows, right? That makes Magnus. That makes Magnus and Franziska cousins of some sort, second cousins, or I don't know. I don't know the exact, you know, term, but they are cousins in some capacity, you know, down the line, essentially. And then, of course, that makes Trante and Charlotte cousins, first cousins, right? That makes Agnes Charlotte's aunt, right? As Noah is Trante's uncle. And then, of course, you know, if you keep kind of going down that line, you know, of course, you know, Jonas and Mikkel and Ulrich, essentially, they're all related in some capacity. So, you know, that whole notion of everyone kind of mixing and matching, and that there's all kinds of relationships going on, right? Throughout these four families. Yeah, you know, it's leaning into that now for sure. But how about Ulrich and Mikkel reuniting? Wow. I mean, it's a heartbreaking moment. And, that one hit me really hard. It really did, because, you know, Mikkel and Ulrich relationship, the father-son relationship, that was one I really liked from day one, since day one, episode one. You know, I felt like there was something special there. Again, you know, he is the youngest, so it makes sense, but you could tell. But to spend 33 years and to finally lay your eyes on your son, who pretty much looks the same, right? For Mikkel, it's only been a few months. For Ulrich, 33 years. Being tormented for 33 years, drugged, much like Mikkel himself now. You know, it's becoming clear it's much more than just helping him sleep, you know, because of the nightmares. You know, this is like a regular thing. She has to go and kind of be sneaky and steal these sedatives, essentially powerful sedatives that are clearly by prescription, right? So she's kind of So she's kind of dosing Mikkel on the regular. You know, there's a lot of things, a lot of reasons for it. You know, maybe she does think that Mikkel, this young child, has a lot of trauma in his past. You know, perhaps abuse, be it physical or sexual abuse. Maybe she's trying to help him forget. You know, I'm trying to look at the positives perhaps, but, you know, ultimately drugging a child in that capacity, it's just not a good thing, you know. And of course, there's that whole Innes not having a child, and then, you know, God essentially, you know, giving her this opportunity, this golden moment, this, you know, miracle, this child that came to her. But, you know, I've always maintained that Mikkel and Innes coming together has been one of the nicer things that's happened in this story, right? That the universe brought them together. You know, I mean, Innes, of course, Innes, you know, she is a religious individual. She believes it's God. That God deemed it, you know, right that she's there for Mikkel, and, you know, Mikkel was brought to her, you know, that they were kind of given each other. But yeah, there's that angle as well. You know, now that she has a child, she just doesn't want to lose the child. She never wants to lose Mikkel. She's quite protective, overprotective even. You know, that was clear. It appears that she is trying to help him or make him forget, you know, his past. And you see, you know, Mikkel as his father, as Ulrich is being taken away, he's not able to really step in and say much, right? You cannot expect Mikkel to do much in that scenario. I mean, first of all, you know, who knows how much effect these sedatives have had over him over the past few months. You know, they must have had some impact on him by now. And it's a bit of a sad parallel. You know, his own father in the 50s was so drugged out of his mind that, you know, his reaction time, remember, he's trying to say his name, but by the time he actually gets it out, the door's closed and young Egon's already gone. Yeah, Mikkel, he must have been so confused, right? He was already kind of in this dreamlike existence, right? Neither here or there, right? I brought up that point in one of my discussions. And now all of a sudden, you know, this individual who looks really familiar to him, feels really familiar to him, ends up being his father, comes back into his life. And now all of a sudden, these things he's been trying to forget, all of a sudden, you know, it's been just brought right back into his life. So, you know, the things that must have been swimming through his mind must have been just insane at that point in time. And of course, you know, that beautiful moment, that fantastic moment. And I knew right then and there that's going to play such a major part in this show. You know, that fantastic transitional hinge, right? The cup trick, you know, transitions to Jonas in episode 1, but now, of course, 33 years later, Ulrich does the trick for him, or, you know, kind of recreates the trick, flips the glass upside down. Wow. But, you know, wow, that was heartbreaking. You know, yes, Ulrich has done some terrible things, and he himself believes that people get the things they deserve. Everyone gets what they deserve. But that was harsh, man. That was just, you know, first getting to Mikkel, and even thinking that, okay, he might be able to take Mikkel back, but, you know, he had no idea that the passage is closed anyways. And then on top of that, you know, losing Mikkel, and then seeing Magnus and Marta. I thought that was just insane. How much pain can one man take? And, you know, imagine from Ulrich's perspective, seeing those two, and maybe he thinks, oh, they're lost here as well now, right? They're kind of displaced out of time as well. He has no idea, right, how they showed up here, and if they are going to be able to go back. So this man is being tortured, man. It's just one of those things, right? He's saying, these are my children, those are my children, that's my son. To everyone else, that's just a crazy man. That's just a crazy man talking, calling everyone his children. Yeah, man. So it was tough. It was tough. But of course, like I mentioned in the last episode, in the discussion of the last episode, Katharina, she asked Tana that you saw Mikkel. You know, how do I get to him? How do I get to Mikkel? So there's still that angle. There is that aspect that Katharina might try. And it became really clear that the stranger, Jonas, he knew that Katharina is supposed to come over, and he knew Clausen is probably going to come over. So he left earlier that day. And of course, since Katharina came here, the Nielsen house was empty, and he was able to break in, right, and place that necklace, the one that our Jonas has in the bunker in episode 1 in 2053, right? So I guess there's two of those, right? He has that on him right now, our Jonas. He must have that on him, right? Or unless he just left it back there. He left it in the bunker. in 2053. So it's one of those situations again, right? Multiple copies of the same thing, be it the letter, be it the contraption, the time machine contraption, and now perhaps this necklace. He left it for Marta, and it appears Marta realizes, okay, maybe Jonas is around, right? Someone left this here, and she just found out that Jonas is supposed to come back. He is going to return again, kind of playing into some of the biblical references again. But I've got to say, the scene that was a bit perplexing actually was Jonas coming back, stranger coming back home, and I thought it was actually quite lovely that Hannah was legitimately, genuinely happy to see him back. I think for a moment she thought maybe yet another man in her life has left again. There was a scene, I think, in season 1 as Jonas kind of sits by her bedside and he was looking at her, and they had this sweet moment, right, as they hug it out. This is after Jonas comes back from 86. I believe she said something about maybe it's my destiny, or maybe it's just destined that all the men in my life leave me, right? I believe it was something like that. So yes, Hannah is capable of terrible things. She's a toxic individual, a parasite, according to both Ulrich and Katharina. She's not wrong. She's not wrong about that. But again, I like this character, Hannah. It's a fantastic character. Again, it really reminds me of Cersei Lannister. She really does. Cersei Lannister, one of the best characters of Game of Thrones, in my opinion, and in many people's opinions. I felt that something was a bit off. How come all of a sudden he comes in and he has that attitude? Right? To me, and I was about to go into that point, but I kind of held off because I didn't want to speak over dialogue. To me, I almost felt like he had to take that approach at that point in time, to maybe put something into motion, to kind of push her towards something that is meant to happen and is supposed to happen. I don't know, because they didn't show anything that made him kind of have that attitude all of a sudden. Start asking her about Ulrich. I know about the affair. Did you ever actually love Mikkel or Michael? I don't know. To me, it felt like something was a bit off about Jonas, or a stranger at that point in time. And the thing I was trying to say during the episode is that given the nature of this, sometimes you kind of have to be really cognizant of some of the conversations, especially the ones that the time travelers, the travelers are having, be it Noah, be it the stranger in this episode, the things they're saying, right? A lot of times it could be a bit of a push into a certain direction that they're supposed to kind of go into or go down. But as he's heading up the stairs, Jonas said, you only need yourself, no one else. And then he has a bit of a smile on his face. I mean, it's not a smile, it's more of that, like a painful smirk almost. To me, that, yes, it's painful, it's harsh. I mean, since season 1, it's kind of felt like her self-worth is kind of based on the men in her life, right? Having those men in her life, be it, her son Jonas, be it the late Michael, be it Ulrich, right? And this notion that she always loses these men. But you see here that the stranger is almost kind of setting her free in a sense, that she doesn't need anyone, just herself. I don't know. That whole scene, that whole conversation, his attitude, it was different. Something was different about that Jonas coming back in. It felt really deliberate. I think, long story short, everything about that approach, it felt deliberate, to me at least. But that kind of reminds me, I was going to talk about Eric, Mads, and Yasin. Now, them being taken, being kidnapped, and unfortunately them having to die in those experiments, they play a part as well. They're not, I don't think they're, randomly picked. For Eric, right? Eric goes missing, and ultimately because of that, on that day, on that fateful night, they do go to the caves to, get a secret stash of drugs, essentially. And of course, who has to come along? Mikkel. And of course, that night, Mikkel goes missing through the caves, and he lands in 1986, right? There's still that big mystery of how Mikkel even made it through, because, since then, they've shown us that it's quite a difficult task to actually make it through. So, for someone like Mikkel, he had to be guided. So that's still one of the bigger mysteries of the show. I've given my thoughts on that before in my season 1 discussions. So let's see if, this season or maybe in season 3, I actually get a final, big reveal on that aspect of it. And of course, those actual bodies turning up at specific points in time. they play a part as well. Be it Mads turning up or his dead body turning up in 2019. Be it Eric and Yasin showing up in 1952, right? Because of those incidents, other things kind of play a part or start coming into play, right? Domino effect. So yeah, there's all of that as well. So yeah, kind of going all the way back to the beginning now, circling all the way back to the notion that if he's able to stop Michael from hanging himself, none of this is going to happen from that point on. That all of this is going to stop, or, they are going to cease to exist. But again, all of us know, no, he's not going to be able to change anything. He can't change anything. That's just how it is. And the fact that Adam wants Jonas to go there means that he has no concern that Jonas is going to mess things up. In fact, he needs him to go there because clearly some of these things are going to have to happen because of Jonas trying to stop them from happening. Or his presence is going to make some of these things possible. Jonas, at this point in time, who stepped into the God particle, that does break the 33-year cycle, right? Though, of course, I've seen that already in the show. One thing that really stood out from that conversation was some things you just don't forget. Some pain you just don't forget, right? Or some things change you and some pain you just don't forget. Something along those lines. I thought that was quite poignant. You see Adam, I guess, has certainly suffered quite a bit himself, right? And I thought it was really cool that the storytelling, the writing actually brings up that idea. It's upfront about that whole notion that, I couldn't even imagine myself thinking or doing or saying the things that person was saying to me. And I'm speaking of Adam around the time he was in Jonas's position, right? In his own cycle, essentially. But after, certain experiences, after, some painful losses, and 66 years of experiences, essentially, he learned, he understood the things his older self, Adam, meant all that time ago. Now Adam himself understands, right? And ultimately, Jonas is going to be Adam as well. So he is going to understand at some point as well. Though, again, I have no idea how far along Jonas is going to get in terms of, the stranger and the Adam cycle, the three lives, essentially, right? They slot in perfectly, don't they? And the different phases Jonas goes through, right? Jonas, stranger, and Adam. A lot of just fantastic dialogue and writing in this one. The script is just fantastic in this episode. I mean, as most other episodes. But yeah, this next episode, the setup is incredible. And, I'm a little bit uneasy. I'm a little bit on edge about some of the possibilities, but I'm really, really damn excited as well. Yeah. And, a long time ago, I brought up the whole idea of them potentially showing a young Mikkel. By that I meant Mikkel from 2019 or before that, right? Because now I am going to get to see Michael finally. I've been hoping for, some scenes of Michael, right? I've seen Mikkel, but I want to see Michael, and I'm getting it. I'm finally getting it. But, is it possible to see Mikkel? And that was my concern, right? Since Mikkel has grown up a bit, though, of course, even now, even in this season, even in the 87 time period, he can still pass off as the Mikkel I saw in season 1. If they do need to show Mikkel once again in the 2019 timeline or time period, or before that even. Because at this point, Jonas is going to show up in 2019. So for now, I'll have to end it off here and come back to it again in the next episode. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. It's lovely to see some of the familiar faces now. I recognize, I'm good at names or usernames and profile pics. I recognize the profile pics. I've seen a lot of regulars now, so it's really awesome to see you around. Over the span of these episodes I've been watching now, 15 episodes at this point, right? Yeah, 15. So I hope to see you many more times right till the conclusion of the series. But if you are interested in early access to the next episode, episode 6, right now, or maybe even full length to this episode, consider checking out the Patreon page. You know, like I've mentioned before, this is the toughest show I've ever had to edit down to 10 minutes. It's painful. You know, it's painful. It takes me 3 times as much as any other show I've done on the channel. It's a difficult time choosing the scenes you have to end up cutting, right? But it has to be done. Otherwise, they would get blocked immediately by Netflix. But yeah, if you're into that, consider checking out the Patreon page. And yeah, the links for that are in the description and the pinned comment. Right then, thank you for joining me and thank you for your time, because time is precious. So I thank you for that.